Hi everybody, this is Ginny, and today I wanted to talk to you about what it is like to work at a Dutch shelter. Because in America there are a lot of shelters and there's a lot more known about the shelters in America, I think, than in the Netherlands. And I think it's very different here than it is in America. So I thought I might as well make a video about it to talk a bit about the differences that I know and what it's like for me, how my experience is working at an animal shelter in the Netherlands. So before I start this video, a little disclaimer. I'm not gonna say the name of the animal shelter that I work at. That's because that's just the policy of the animal shelter, and it doesn't really matter. And I think it's a good example for a standard Dutch animal shelter, so to say. Yeah, so this shelter that I work at, it's a pretty small shelter and we are totally reliable on donations, so we don't get any funding or anything from the government. It's only donations from good people that want to help the animals as well. And also the adoption prices, those also obviously go to the care of the animals. So in our shelter we have a couple of employees, and I am one of those. So most of them are animal caretakers, but we also have a vet at the shelter. We have a vet clinic, a tiny little vet clinic. It's not very big, it's just a little vet clinic, and it just has to attend to the basic needs of the animals. So we can neuter, we can vaccinate, we can chip the animals, microchip them, and some other stuff. We can do some blood work, but nothing fancy. And the biggest part of the shelter is obviously the animal enclosures of the animals that are in the shelter. And we also have an animal ambulance, as we call it in the Netherlands. So we have a little office, and when someone finds an animal, for example a cat that was hit by a car, or a stray cat, or a pigeon that got injured, I don't even know, then we get a call and the animal ambulance will pick up that animal and bring it back to the shelter so we can give it the help that it needs. We have a dog department, a cat department, a rabbit department, and this also houses other rodents and stuff. And we also have a department for wildlife, so we also get some wildlife at our shelter, and we only take care of them temporarily because we have a wildlife shelter a few kilometers from our shelter, and they will take over those animals and make sure those get healthy and go back to the wild. And the last department that we have is TNR, so that's Trap Neuter Return. There's a lot of farms in the Netherlands that have big populations of cats, and those, as you may or may not know, cats breed like crazy, and in a few years you can have a lot of cats if you start with only 2. So what we do is we trap the cats, we neuter them, and we return them, so the population stays as small as possible. Most of the people that work at the shelter are volunteers, so without the volunteers we would absolutely not be able to do the work that we are doing. So we are very, 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 very grateful for all these great people that take the time to help us out and help the animals out, because they're doing a great job for sure. So we, the employees, we just make sure that the volunteers know what to do that day. They know which animals are where, they know which special cases there are and what special needs they have. And we make sure that all the animals are fed and watered in the morning, and that they all get their medication, because about 99% of the animals at the shelter have medical problems. We also help with cleaning everything. We just supervise everything. We have to make sure that everything goes right in the day. And we also take care of the rehoming of the animals. So the input of the volunteers is very important, because it's not possible for just the few employees that we have to know every animal. So the volunteers help us a lot with that. They help us with that kind of stuff. So it's easier for us to rehome them in a home that is suitable for them, because we are very, very strict on where our animals go, because we obviously don't want them to ever come back to the shelter, because that will be the last thing that we want. If the people want an animal, they have to fill in a few forms and they have to answer a lot of questions, and if we think that they are a good match for that animal, we arrange a meeting and they can meet the animal, and after a few visits we decide together if this is going to be the right match or not, and hopefully the animal gets adopted. What it's like to be an employee at an animal shelter, it's pretty hard because of course it's my dream job. It's the best job ever. I really love it, but it's also pretty tough, and I mean mostly emotionally, because we get a lot of very sad cases, like animals that are abandoned or animals that are mistreated or left in the garbage bin, I'm not even joking, or left tied up at the gate. Kittens are thrown over the fence of our shelter and we find them in the morning. I think last year about 5 dogs were tied to the gate and another 10 dogs were just left in the woods tied to a tree or something. So a lot of heartbreaking stories, and you really see the worst of the people, and that can really be hard on you, because to do this job you have to be very empathetic and emotionally involved, because I think if you are not, it will be very hard to really do this job very passionately, because we don't have normal hours. We start at around 8 and we end at whenever the work is done, so this can be at 6 but it also can be 7 or even later. And yeah, it's hard work because there's a lot of animals that need to be taken care of, and there's a lot of people that we have to help in a day and assist in a day. I mean volunteers and also customers. So it takes a lot of work to get all of that arranged, and with that it's also emotionally pretty draining to see dogs that are just emaciated and mistreated, and cats that were just left behind in a house or come from a hoarding case. It's really heartbreaking. It gets really hard on me sometimes. So that gets pretty hard. But on the other hand, you also see the best of the people, because for example, I was talking about the volunteers that we have, and I'm so proud and so happy that there are people that just, they work so hard and they don't even ask for anything in return, and without them the shelter wouldn't be able to do what we are doing. So they are really a very important part, and it's so heartwarming to see these people put in a lot of effort to take care of the animals. It's just great. And also the people that come to adopt animals, most of them, they give them such a loving home, and it's so beautiful to see these animals flourish and just become real dogs and cats and bunnies again after they have had such a terrible life. It's just such a beautiful thing. Sometimes it's hard to rehome some dogs. We have a lot of Staffords and Bulldogs and Shepherds. Those are the dogs that people they buy them as a pup because they want a tough looking dog and a guarding dog, and they think they're also cool to buy a dog like that, and they just don't expect them to be so energetic and to be so high maintenance, because they kind of are high maintenance. I mean, they're great dogs, I love them all. The Staffords, the Pit Bulls, the Shepherds, I love them, but people just, a lot of people that want to buy a pup, they only look at the exterior of the dog and they think it's such a good looking dog and they just want it, so they're just gonna buy it, and they don't realize the work that goes in there. And that is of course the same for every dog breed, but most of the dogs that we get in and that have a hard time adjusting and have a hard time getting adopted are the Staffords and the Shepherds. But again, it's so nice when you find a perfect match for those animals, especially the animals that are in the shelter for a long time for whatever reason, medical or because of behavioral reasons. It's just so heartwarming to see them find the perfect match and be loved. That makes it all worth it. When that dog that you have trained for months and months has made so much progress and you finally find the perfect home for him, that's just the best feeling ever. So in the Netherlands, I know that in America you have a lot of so-called kill shelters. In the Netherlands, those, as far as I know, don't exist. The only reason that we would euthanize an animal is because they have extreme medical issues, and they wouldn't be able to live a pain-free life or something like that. Or if they have extreme behavioral issues that are just not trainable or too dangerous to rehome. Yeah, we do sometimes get dogs that are just so aggressive or so traumatized, and it's so hard to train them, and they're just not very reliable anymore. So that would also be a case that would be considered for euthanization. When it comes to behavioral issues, we always try to train them. We put a lot of work into training. We have some behavioral specialists that come to our shelter to help us train these dogs and find the best homes for them. That goes for every dog, but if there is a dog that has some really bad behavioral issues, we still will try our best to train them, and if after a few months there's progress, then they will just be put up for adoption like any other dog. It's just going to be a special needs dog, so to say, so we have to find a person that really knows what he's doing. But other than those issues, our dogs would never be euthanized because of the breed or because of their looks or whatever. My day starts at around 8 in the morning, and it starts with walking all the dogs. I'm still dreaming. It starts with walking all the dogs, feeding all the dogs, checking all the other animals, making sure everyone gets his medication. After that, we make sure all the animals are taken care of. The dogs get their exercise in, and the cats and the other animals' enclosures are cleaned, and also the volunteers who work together to make sure everything is cleaned up, and also the shelter looks clean and it's looking representable for the customers. After that, it can get pretty hectic because in the afternoon a lot of new animals come in a lot of the time, so the animal ambulance might drive up to 20 times a day to go get some animals. There's no way to tell in the morning what kind of day it's going to be, so every day is very different. It's always a surprise, and that keeps it fun because, you know, it's every day is an adventure. Never a dull day at the shelter, that's for sure. And in the evening we have the same routine, so we make sure everyone is fed, everyone has got his medication. I really love working at the shelter. It's just the best job that I have ever had. It's really a dream job for me. When I was a kid, this was really the only thing that I ever wanted to do. I really wanted to work with animals and help animals. I always used to watch Animal Cops Houston and stuff like that on Animal Planet. I really loved it, and I'm so happy that I found this job and that I got to work at this great place. I love my colleagues, I love the animals. It gets hard sometimes, that's for sure, but it's also very rewarding and just a great job to have. So I'm very happy about that. So if you have any more questions about what it's like to work at a Dutch shelter, just anything else about shelter life, feel free. Feel free to comment down below, and I'll try my best to answer them all. See you next time. Bye bye.